What's up guys, RBC here for the 5th episode of my How to Riven series. I recommend you to watch the previous vids if you haven't already. In this video, I want to make a quick summary of the main mistakes Riven players tend to make. And that goes without talking about the ones I spoke about in the past videos, especially in the first and third episodes when I spoke about cooldowns and spacing.
They cannot go unpunished.
The very first mistake I'm going to talk about is about the wind slash. Most people tend to throw their wind slash way too early, and I'm not even talking about the execute part, because you guys probably already know that it's a finisher, right? Now, what I'm talking about is the people who don't take into account the enemy dashes or flashes. I bet you missed many kills because people flashed away from your wind slash, and you looked like a dumbass. Yeah, that shit still happens to me a lot. What's worse is that I did that against Perks recently and I still have nightmares about it. You won't always be able to prevent that from happening, but you can reduce the chances of it. If you go fight someone and want to throw your wind slash, especially during a dive, always take into account dashes, gale force and flashes. If you know that they have or might have one of them available, then you may want to wait a few seconds before throwing it. Or you can also use what we call a lockdown. To make it short, it's basically using your wind slash during a CC such as third Q into R2 plus W. Funny enough, if I actually did R2 into W against Perks instead of W into R2, he wouldn't have been able to flash. So yeah, always be careful about it if you don't want to miss solo kills on pro players. The second mistake I'm gonna talk about is how Riven players always tend to fuck up their lane because of the way they mess up the waves. We all like using our third Q at max range to proc the sweet bone plating, or just like for some free damage. But is it always really worth? The answer is no. Unless you can only hit the enemy champion, you have to think about queuing. Wave management is probably the most important thing to learn to climb high as a top laner. A bad wave state can fuck you up entirely even at lower elo. You can break a freeze or a slow push simply by damaging minions with your Q when trading. If you are not familiar with wave management, make sure to check my channel as I'm going to talk about it in the next few days. Once you will have learned about it, you will quickly understand why doing AoE damage to the wave when trading can actually entirely fuck your lane, simply because you damage some poor minions. The third mistake we're going to talk about is how people don't tend to do the proper movement with their shields. Usually, when you tank a tower shot, you want to disengage from the tower with your E, but most people just keep on running away and will take the damage from that tower shot. If they walk back to the shot with their shield active, they will be able to tank it before the shield runs out, because of the distance. So always think about it when you E away from a tower shot. Also a quick tip, if you initiate a dive, always try to keep your E for when you run away from the dive in order to tank that last tower shot. But obviously that's just situational and I'm not gonna go deep into that topic, just, think about it. The fourth mistake I want to talk about is how people tend to overcommit in their trades. In past videos, I told you to back off during the laning phase when your CDs are down, especially into people like Darius that can just pull you and kill you because you got nothing to get the fuck out. It's the same when you go for a trade. In the early levels, Riven has a decent amount of cooldowns on her spells, and once she finishes a full trade by using all of her abilities, she tends to barely have anything to disengage. Into some champions, you may want to keep your E and or your first Q to dash away from the trade. It will depend on the enemy champion or the matchup, but yeah, always think about it, so you don't end up dying because you used too many of your spells and you committed too hard with it. This is a quick but I hope effective video. The next episode will be about the double cast ability, but I might actually release a video about wave control before, which will be about top lane in general and not just Riven. So, thank you guys for watching. Do not hesitate to subscribe and leave a like if you found it helpful. It's always nice to get some positive feedback and stuff, so, Alright. Peace, boys!